international business, it's not new. Don't think for a second that this is something really cool that we just came up with. It's been around for centuries and centuries and centuries as you go through. People have been looking at the domestic environment, seeing overseas, seeing across that border over their opportunities for more profit, more expansion of their business, more world domination as you come through. Some depends who you are. You always had a domestic environment and a foreign environment, and people that are comfortable in operating in each one or both as they go through. And when you're doing both, it's an international environment as you go through. It goes all the way back to the Phoenician and Greek merchants. They traded abroad well before the time of Christ as you go through. They sat down and they would send the Phoenicians, especially their navy, and the Greeks' navy. They would send their merchant ships across the entire world, plying the oceans, plying the seas. Not all of them made it back. It was a risky business in the process. They sit down and they would go traveling across something, and all of a sudden the storm would rise, and the bottom of the Mediterranean has lots of different shipwrecks on it. Basically, shipwrecks and people, adventurers and entrepreneurs trying to sit down there and strive to make a living, strive to make their own fortunes as they went forward. It really expanded a lot of times into China with the emergence of a really integrated trading system. You'll see a lot of different things. When Rome expanded its empire, a major part of the Roman soldier's job wasn't being in combat. Almost 70% of the work dealt with building roads. To this day, you can go through parts of Europe, Germany. They actually have roads built by Roman soldiers where they would dig a trench 6 feet deep, fill it with rocks all the way up to the top to make certain that merchants can travel across the entire Roman world or the Roman Empire and trade, which is why they lasted for such a very long period of time as you go through. You'll see a lot of different things where in China, the Belt Initiative is based upon right now with China over trying to revise the old Silk Road of trying to have a worldwide connection with China as you go through. The Ottoman Empire, it emerged in about 1300 and expanded across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. It influenced a lot of things through the trade routes. Turkey was a huge center of the world at that time. You'll see later on, as you go through the 17th and 18th century, the age of mercantilism, because the power of nations depended upon sponsorship and control of merchant capital as you went through. And you'll see really a number of multinational companies existed in the late 1800s. It's really the Singer sewing machine as you go through. They used to have sewing machines that had foot pedals instead of electric power, and you would operate that. They were funny because it kept people in stitches. Hopefully you caught that, okay, by a thread. Anyway, the JP and Coates, they actually made thread and needles for the sewing machines and for the hand as you go through. Later on, Ford Motor Company came out at the turn of the 20th century, and then Bear, we now think about Bear Aspirin, but they had a lot of different products initially as they went through. Recent trends, we have a lot of multinationals are based in developed nations and a big surge in number arising in emerging economies. We've had a lot of rapid urbanization of populations, which are really having emerging markets in a lot of parts of the world. We see a lot of countries coming up from the third world status up into world powers as they come through the process you go through. We also have the rise of a larger middle class in many countries. You'll see now the cost of doing business, even in China, is becoming more expensive because people are being paid more money as they go through. Some companies are moving their business out of China into different countries like Vietnam and Cambodia because the wages are significantly less than that in the process. But the whole world now, we have a standard of living that's rising. In India, used to be a really rural district or the aspect of people who were in abject poverty, but now there's a huge emerging class in India rising up, and they're, instead of having little motor scooters or bicycles, they're getting cars, creating huge amounts of pollution and a huge amount of all things traffic as you go through. Mexico used to be way down on the chain for business, and now it is the #1 trading partner of the United States, thanks to the USMCA as you go through and look at that agreement. We're seeing a large middle class rising up in a lot of countries across the world, and more affluent countries as they go through an increasing nationalization. Here's an interesting map I came across and I want to share with you. you can see the actual change as you go through of the center of the world center of gravity as you go through. You can see we started off over in Iran, and then we gradually came across where the center of commerce came, and it went really almost crawled over to the United States. And now as the world kept on rising, you'll see it's moving back. So you really have China emerging as a world superpower as well. But you also see Russia, once upon a time, was a superpower. Then it was just a major power as you come through. So you're seeing a lot of changes as to how the world ebb and flows as we go through. Once upon a time, and it moved over here. And now as more and more nations kept bringing up their economic standard for the average person, their gross domestic product as you go through, we'll talk about a couple more terms later on, you'll see how it changes back. And so the center of gravity for the world's economies is shifting even today as you go through. A transnational, there's about 103,000 transnationals with 900,000 foreign affiliates. So you may have a company go through, they may have an office in India, and they'll have several different affiliates as you go through the process over there. Collectively, they account for more than half of all the world trade. 103,000 companies, half the world trade, they hit 10% of the entire world gross domestic product, or the GDP. Make sure you know what GDP stands for, gross domestic product. You also have a lot of things we call subsidiaries of foreign companies. They're becoming more and more important as you go through. This term you have to know, it's called foreign direct investment. It'll be referred to as FDI in the days to come. It really deals with a company from another company coming into a country and actually bringing money in to invest in equipment, structures, build it all up in the process. Recently in Texas, you'll see Toyota built a multi-billion-dollar plant for manufacturing and assembly as they go through. Well, it's called foreign direct investment because the money primarily came from the world headquarters in the United States, and now they have a significant footprint in the United States, even larger than it was before, as they assemble more and more vehicles over here. It's not investment in stock markets, it's investment in infrastructure and manufacturing facilities as they go through. These terms, make certain you know them and make certain you understand what they mean. They're so easy to get mixed up as you go through. When you're exporting something, you're shipping it to another country. When you're importing it, you're buying it from another country. So here's the terminology: import, buy, export, sell. Import, buy, export, sell. Import, buy, export, sell. Put that in your head, because if you're in the middle of a conversation, you may get that confused. Import, buy, export, sell. Keep that in your head as you go through. That's terminology we're going to be using continuously in this course. But also, I want you to have that ingrained in your vocabulary. So you want to have the GDP. You want to have really the foreign direct investment as well. You want to have the terminology of export. What is it? Oh, export, sell. In other words, your country is over here. This is going to tie in a lot of different things. We talk about a strong dollar later on, or a weak dollar, which is better. By the way, you can argue both sides, and I will later on too. Okay, so that being said, international business environment, know the terminology of rapid urbanization, the rise of a world-class middle class, know what export-import is, know what the transnational corporation is, the three requirements for that, okay, and also what foreign direct investment is. Take care.